So the FBI and Homeland Security warning Jewish communities in America about an elevated threat. This after a string of horrific recent attacks in Boulder, Colorado, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, all highlighting the surge in anti-Semitism in America. Auburn basketball coach Bruce Pearl has been an outspoken advocate, and he joins me now. Coach, it's good to see you. Thanks for taking time to be with us today. Yeah, good morning. Here is what DHS and FBI said. Here's the headline. Recent attacks highlight the elevated threat to Israeli and Jewish communities. They talk about the Israeli-Hamas conflict in there. I'm going to get your reaction on this, but about 2.5 weeks ago, when we woke up to the brutal murders in Washington, D.C., of those two young Israeli Americans, JoJo Kalin was on our show. She was there that night, and here's what she said.
To feel more at fear as a diaspora Jew in the United States than in Israel is something I'm contending with and grappling with. But I think what we need to do is not let the terrorists win and not let this act of depravity and hatred strip us of our humanity.
So a diaspora Jew in the United States fearing more in the United States than in Israel. I can't remember a time when anyone would speak like that. What do you think about that, Coach?
Well, Bill, she obviously had an incredibly traumatic experience. I speak out, for Israel and against anti-Semitism. It's not political, it's survival. We have to protect ourselves from people that want to kill us. And at the same time, we've got a responsibility to sort of be, God's chosen people. Bill, there were 3 Jewish American basketball coaches that coached at this year's Final Four. Don't tell me this isn't the greatest country in the world, and this isn't the opportunity for everybody. At the same time, I have my head on a swivel. I understand that being outspoken and trying to speak truth as to what the Bible says, what the history says, and what the reality says of what's going on in Israel right now in the fight against anti-Semitism is extremely important to me. And fortunately, Bill, I don't feel that way. I feel like most Americans have my back and have the back of the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Well, then why then, Coach, with that answer, do you say you have your head on a swivel?
Well, I do because obviously, there's a great country, free speech is allowed, even when it comes down to hate speech. But people have to understand what that speech actually means. When they say free Palestine, they mean free Palestine or free Israel of the Jews. When they talk about it, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's free of what? It's free of the Jews. So in other words, they're basically calling for us to either leave or be dead. I'm not okay with that. I don't think people in this country are okay with that. What's the cause? We're not educating. We're not teaching the truths. Like right now in high schools or college campuses, is there going to be some change in Middle Eastern studies next year? Are we going to learn about how Israel is born? We're going to learn the truth about Zionism and Jews returning to their homeland, or the fact that we've lived there for 3,500 years? Are we going to learn the things that are wrong about anti-Semitism, knowing that this is how it starts? And it may start with the Jewish people, but it then is going to extend to others. And I believe that President Trump has made us all aware that this is just not acceptable on these college campuses. You are over here on a student visa. This is a special gift. Take full advantage of it. You want to incite terrorism? You want to do things that are going to create problems for our country? You're not going to get a chance to stay here. And so I do see people in our country leading the fight, nobody better than President Trump.
So this comment from James Carville this week kind of, it sticks out. It struck us. I'm going to play it and I'll get you to react. Carville, watch.
I do this all the time. I mean, you go to try to raise money from like really wealthy Jewish fundraisers. And it said, look, James, I Democrat, but I can't be a part of party because of what happened at Columbia. No, you just want your tax cut. Now that doesn't apply to most people, most Jewish people see right through that. But the ones that don't see through it, they just don't really, at the end of the day, they just want their tax cut.
So Jews in America are leaving the Democratic Party because they just want their bleeping tax cut. How do you read that?
Bill, historically, the fight against anti-Semitism or support for the state of Israel as a Jewish state has been a bipartisan issue. but I don't think that's any longer the case. The truth is that Jewish voters are abandoning the Democratic Party because they become increasingly extreme, and they indulge terrorist sympathizers. You just look at these campuses, you look at these college graduations. You got families that come to these graduations to celebrate the work and the tremendous accomplishment from graduating from these universities. And what are they going to do? They got to hear these political statements that somehow they don't belong and somehow genocide is taking place in Israel or in Gaza. It's just not true. And so for James Carville to say that's an anti-Semitic trope. Now, I don't know whether he's anti-Semitic or not, and I'm going to judge him that way. But when you say that wealthy Jews don't want to pay their taxes, that just commits to the Jew hatred and the things that are out there. I would venture to say that if you were to look at how much taxes successful Jewish people pay, I might be one of them. I'm paying my fair share, and I'm happy to pay my fair share. So if this is the Democratic leadership, and if he's going to call out wealthy Jews like that, guess what? They're not staying in the Democratic Party. And there has been no president in the history of our country that has done more to support the state of Israel than Donald Trump. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Everybody said when he did it, there was going to be war. There wasn't. He declared sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He has supported Prime Minister Netanyahu in doing two things: getting the hostages back and defeating Hamas. Bill, this is what needs to happen in order for there to be peace and prosperity in the Middle East.
That last thing has not yet been accomplished. Coach, your voice is important. Thanks for sharing with us today. Bruce Pearl from Auburn.
Well, thank you for allowing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.